In responding to Margaret Atwood's moral disorder, I first found it difficult to find inspiration to write thematically similar to the novel. I put this down to not having experienced the troubles that Nell has gone through throughout the book, however, it made it challenging when trying to plan and draft my piece. Eventually, I just tried to draw on the feeling of isolation and loneliness because I myself have experienced it, therefore found it easier to describe and write about. After playing around with some ideas, I finally settled on writing about a lonely person who had experienced heartbreak and is coming to terms with spending a life by themselves. I opened my piece similarly to how Atwood opens the moral disorder chapter with Nell and Tig watching the barn owl chase the ducklings. But instead, I chose a city setting rather than the country and substituted pigeons rather than owls and ducklings. This is because personally I find myself more lonely in a city environment, perhaps because of my farm background. The city just feels less like home. In the beginning of Bewitched, I decided to recreate Atwood's beginning to moral disorder by using the pigeons as a symbol of human life and relationships. Using the 3 pigeons, I tried to master Atwood's use of connections between humans and animals and how fascinating these can be if really pondered. This is where I included the theme not only humans seek companionship, but animals as well. In all openings of her stories, Atwood begins with really descriptive language that is used to give the reader a sense of identity and belonging. Weirdly for me, this has a calming effect, and as I proceeded through the story, I was overcome with a relaxing, soothing feeling. I decided to begin this way because I believe it engages the reader and helps them envision the scene and what's happening. This can be seen when I describe the house and the west window that frames the setting sun. Stylistically speaking, throughout my piece, I tried to mirror Atwood's use of long and short sentences to describe events. This can be seen particularly in the snippet, "When I'm really sad, I like to think about how different it was when it was me, when I was his. We'd lay in bed between the soft cotton sheets, intertwined, sometimes talking, sometimes quietly staring past the filmy white curtains." I have used a combination of sentence lengths and commas to mimic Atwood's style, but also to build a fluid change between certain ideas and a stop-start transition between others. Intertextuality is another prominent device used in Atwood's stories, so I felt it was important to include an element of this in my story. I chose Pride and Prejudice as my text to incorporate because I believe it deals with similar themes such as dangerous love, seeking companionship, and men not being who you thought they were. My main intention was to use quotes from Pride and Prejudice and include them in my piece as a deeper literary component. These included, "He had bewitched me, body and soul," "I declare, after all, there is no enjoyment like reading," and "What are men to rocks and mountains." Bewitched also features intertextuality from Atwood's moral disorder. Essentially, the story is Una's view of her and Tig's relationship and is her version of the events that occur in the chapter Moral Disorder. Writing the story from first-person perspective of Una, I thought it was clever to not reveal this until the end, as Atwood fails to reveal Nell's name until later in the novel. I used specific quotes like, "In the evenings I sit," "Most days I throw my energy into," and "I couldn't control myself, I began to cry," to begin some paragraphs and as a starting point in expressing my ideas. Throughout the whole piece, I tried to carry the tone of sadness in Una's voice, as the story is essentially a reflection on her and Tig's relationship. Una is narrating the story during the time where she is fighting the battle between hurt and acceptance. I chose to showcase her progression throughout the story, and in the end, she finally comes to terms with her new situation. Concluding both my story and this reflection, I end in a twisted quote from Pride and Prejudice. "There is nothing so bad as parting with one's presentation. One seems to forlorn without it." Thank you.